when the newly appointed Senior Vice President of Operations, Marcus Vance, publicly dismissed the Internal Risk Management Division as a bloated relic during his inaugural executive assembly. Alanna Vance Ross recognized the immediate onset of an inevitable organizational disaster. Sitting quietly for seats down from his glass podium, she observed him throw around empty corporate jargon like friction-free scaling and disruptive optimization with the awkward arrogance of an amateur performer failing to read the room. Not a single veteran officer chuckled, yet Marcus offered a broad, self-satisfied grin as if he had single-handedly revolutionized corporate finance. What nobody in that sterile, modern conference room realized, least of all the young executive in his tailored designer suit and sleek hairstyle, was that Alanna was the sole structural pillar keeping the entire enterprise solvent. Across 16 turbulent years, for boardroom coups, to federal tax audits, and a high-profile corporate espionage incident, Alanna had quietly outlasted every loud-mouthed strategist who attempted to alter the company's delicate foundation. She avoided flashy presentations and grand strategic summits, but she possessed an uncanny ability to dissect complex regulatory frameworks as effortlessly as reading a daily newspaper. Her corner workspace was an organized battleground of color-coded dossiers and heavily redacted physical files, every document representing a severe financial penalty that she had silently neutralized long before executive leadership even noticed a threat. However, the ambitious executive had arrived with a mission to aggressively slash operational costs without comprehending what he was dismantling. Consequently, Alanna, who had painstakingly drafted the corporation's international compliance architecture from the ground up and personally secured half of the municipal permits showcased on their promotional brochures, found her name systematically scrubbed from high-level decision meetings. Over the subsequent weeks, Alanna passively observed her professional footprint being deliberately erased from the firm's administrative schedule. She was quietly removed from vendor oversight briefings, her routine check-ins with senior legal counsel were abruptly cancelled, and her once vital role was rendered completely invisible to the rising corporate hierarchy. The subtle sabotage escalated rapidly when the operational budget assigned to her specialized compliance software was slashed overnight without prior notification. In her place, a fresh-faced financial analyst was assigned to shadow her routine duties, though the young man spent the vast majority of his shift confusedly wandering the corridors looking for the breakroom espresso machine. Furthermore, her mandated quarterly regulatory assessment was arbitrarily absorbed into the General Operations Department, an administrative change Alanna only discovered after a confused intern accidentally forwarded her an outdated calendar invitation. Shortly thereafter, Marcus initiated what he euphemistically labeled as a strategic human capital realignment, which served as a thinly veiled disguise for immediate mass terminations. Entire specialized divisions were gutted overnight, payroll expenses were sliced in half, and the human resources floor was absurdly split into core administration and employee wellness experience. Every Friday afternoon, the internal communication channels grew ominously quiet as more digital accounts were deactivated across the firm. Desk after desk was abruptly abandoned, including one belonging to a veteran procurement director who simply left his potted plant behind and walked out of the skyscraper forever. Throughout the mounting chaos, Alanna remained profoundly composed and maintained her meticulously detailed logbooks to ensure no junior manager accidentally triggered a federal inquiry. Unbeknownst to the newly restructured leadership team, Alanna's verified signature was the sole authorization preventing multi-million-dollar enforcement actions from various federal oversight commissions. She personally held the high-level cryptographic access codes that bridged the firm's internal accounting ledgers directly to government verification databases. Years prior, when an incompetent former director outsourced regulatory reporting to an unaccredited third-party firm and nearly landed the business in a $14 million legal disaster. exemptions, and 6 months of unverified audit logs, she stated plainly. You will need to upload those official records immediately, because my administrative access keys will permanently expire in exactly 38 minutes. A palpable wave of tension washed over the boardroom as the muted line from the corporate legal counsel suddenly beeped, with the lead attorney frantically asking what specific credentials were being authorized. Elena offered no further explanation. She simply stood up, adjusted her tailored blazer, and smoothly tucked her chair back under the conference table. Marcus attempted to regain control of the room by offering a sarcastic farewell, suggesting she could now spend her endless free time focusing on gardening or sitting on her back porch. Elena met his condescending gaze with a calm, dangerous smile that instantly drained the remaining confidence from his face. Good luck with your new global team, Marcus, she remarked softly as she picked up her handbag. Just be careful not to lose that badge on the table, because it is the only registered key this company owns. With her final warning delivered, her footsteps echoed rhythmically down the polished marble hallway as she departed the building without a shred of hesitation or drama. Marcus turned toward his silent human resources manager and foolishly scoffed that Elena would be crawling back for a severance package by the start of next week. However, the stunned managers remaining in the room were slowly realizing a terrifying reality. None of them actually understood how her complex regulatory permissions operated. Her metallic badge was not an ornamental company token, but rather the unique cryptographic key anchoring their largest commercial contracts to state compliance databases. Now, that vital key sat entirely disconnected on the boardroom table, silently counting down toward an automatic digital lockout. By early Saturday morning, Elena was calmly vacuuming her quiet home study, measuring her newfound freedom through a neat, familiar checklist. Her late husband used to gently joke that she possessed an incredible talent for remaining calm in the center of an administrative hurricane. She poured herself a fresh cup of dark roast coffee, opened her personal computer terminal, and initiated her final exit procedure with practiced efficiency. She systematically revoked her master digital certificates across every major regulatory interface, including state tax portals and municipal licensing frameworks. When the system prompted her with a final warning asking if she truly wished to disassociate Level 5 authority credentials, she clicked the confirmation button without an ounce of hesitation. Next, she gathered her physical security tokens, disassociated her hardware keys, and sealed her encrypted authentication drives inside a heavy steel lockbox. By 11 o'clock that morning, Elena's digital identity had been completely erased from the corporate network structure. She then retrieved her vintage leather address book and searched for a specific phone number she had kept stored for emergencies. Selecting a contact listed as Regional Inspector General, she picked up her home phone and dialed the direct line. Inspector Ross, Elena stated calmly the moment the receiver picked up on the other end of the line. The senior investigator let out a heavy sigh, immediately recognizing the voice of the veteran compliance manager. Please tell me you are calling with a routine quarterly update and not a major emergency, Elena, the inspector requested wearily. I am calling to inform you that my position was officially eliminated during an operational restructure, and my security clearances were revoked. Elena replied evenly. The inspector fell completely silent for several seconds before groaning loudly in utter disbelief over the incredible stupidity of the firm's new executive management. Elena assured the federal inspector that all active operating exemptions registered under her personal license would turn null and void by the upcoming Monday morning. She reminded the investigator that the firm's crucial municipal exemptions were legally tied directly to her personal professional credentials and active oversight. After concluding the professional courtesy call, Elena reached out to her personal attorney to ensure her formal resignation notice was properly documented. She made it explicitly clear to legal authorities that any subsequent attempt by her former employer to use her digital signature or professional credentials would constitute immediate fraud. That evening, Elena sat peacefully by her living room window, sipping a cold drink while watching autumn leaves drift across her garden. Monday morning arrived like a sudden thunderbolt inside the corporate headquarters, as the firm's primary founder stormed into the building at 7 in the morning. Dressed in a rumpled suit and holding a thick sheaf of printed official notices, he bypassed every greeting and slammed his office door so hard the glass partition rattled. Within minutes, an urgent emergency summons was issued to every senior director, legal advisor, and department head across the executive wing. The subject line of the automated message read, "Critical system failure, mandatory attendance required immediately." Marcus entered the main conference room carrying his leather briefcase, completely unaware of the immense disaster waiting for him inside. The founder did not offer a polite greeting. He simply threw an official government document across the table directly into Marcus's chest. "Care to explain why the Department of Transportation just issued a formal suspension notice on our primary transit contract?" The founder demanded in a voice shaking with rage. Marcus let out a nervous chuckle, foolishly assuming the issue was merely a minor technical glitch caused by Elena's recent departure. "It is probably just a minor administrative backlog from her bitter exit," Marcus claimed carelessly, attempting to minimize the crisis. She likely forgot to submit a final routine form before she packed up her desk. The chief financial officer turned his laptop screen toward Marcus, displaying an array of glowing red warning banners across their primary operations dashboard. "Our primary municipal contractor portal access was completely revoked at midnight," the officer explained with pale cheeks. "We are entirely locked out of the official bidding network, and our primary operating license is currently listed as unverified." Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, waving his hand dismissively while insisting they simply reassign the master account permissions to a new manager. "We cannot reassign the account," the lead corporate attorney interjected sternly from the far side of the table. Elena's unique registration was not a simple administrative account. It was a personal, state-sanctioned license that granted us provisional clearance. The attorney leaned forward, emphasizing every word. "She was the single individual legally authorized to certify our compliance documents." A suffocating silence fell over the executive suite as the true magnitude of Marcus's disastrous mistake began to sink into everyone's mind. The founder stared in absolute disbelief, demanding to know why no secondary employee had been cross-trained to handle those vital credentials. The lead attorney reminded him that Elena had formally submitted 3 separate proposals over the last 2 years requesting funds to certify an assistant, all of which were personally rejected by Marcus to save money. "Can't we just submit the quarterly paperwork using her saved digital signature for now?" Marcus stammered, his confidence rapidly evaporating. "That would be a severe federal crime." The attorney responded coldly, staring at him as if he were completely insane. The founder slammed his fists onto the mahogany table, commanding human resources to contact Elena immediately and offer whatever salary she demanded to return. However, the HR manager nervously revealed that Elena had already filed official notices with state authorities confirming her complete separation from the company. By mid-morning, the entire C-suite was trapped in endless crisis meetings while panic rippled through every department in the building. Junior managers frantically searched online job portals hoping to find a licensed replacement, only to discover that the certification process required 6 months of rigorous background checks. Meanwhile, clients began calling incessantly as news of the contract suspensions leaked into the broader commercial industry. Marcus sat silently in his expensive office chair, staring helplessly at Elena's old security badge resting inside a clear plastic bag on the table. The once arrogant executive looked completely defeated, realizing that his reckless push for cost-cutting had inadvertently demolished the company's legal foundation. Elena had not raised her voice, made wild threats, or thrown a dramatic public tantrum on her way out the door. She had simply stepped aside, unclipped her unique authority key, and allowed their vast wall of administrative arrogance to crumble under its own weight.